Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to McEwen Mining's Exploration webinar. We will be discussing developments from McEwen Mining's 2019 exploration program at the Black Fox Complex in Timmins, Canada. Participants will have the ability to ask questions following the presentation. Present in our Toronto office today are Rob McEwen, Chairman and Chief Owner, and Sylvain Guerard Senior Vice President of Exploration. Joining us over the telephone line are also presenters Ken Tylee, Exploration Manager for Timmins, and Robin Wolf, Exploration Geologist. After the speaker's presentation, there will be a question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question during this time, simply press star followed by the number 1 on your telephone keypad. If you would like to withdraw your question, please press the pound key. I will now turn the phone over to Mr. Rob McEwen, Chief Owner.
Thank you, Operator. Good afternoon, fellow share owners and investors. You might be surprised to learn that this year has been a very good year from an exploration perspective. Over the past 2 years, our large investment in exploration has allowed us to make significant progress demonstrating the prolific geological character and potential of our Black Fox properties. Regrettably, the underperformance of our operations has overshadowed and dominated the market's view of our company. It has also compelled us to do 2 financings this year at unattractive prices. As a result, little notice has been taken of our exploration success. So today, we want to share with you our excitement about our exploration success in Timmins. We bought the Black Fox properties in late 2017, in part because we saw significant exploration potential there. We began a large and aggressive exploration program in 2018 and continued it at a similar pace this year. Our drilling has identified and grown a number of deposits. We believe that what we have found is just the tip of the proverbial iceberg. This year alone, we have issued 11 press releases highlighting our high-grade assay results from multiple areas on our Black Fox properties. Today, we want to help you understand what we have found, where we see the potential to increase the size of these resources, and most importantly, show you what we have found could result in a significant increase in our annual gold production from our Black Fox properties over the next 3 to 5 years. We have an excellent exploration team led by Sylvain Guerard, our Senior Vice President Exploration. Sylvain will start the discussion with an overview of our Timmins properties, the Black Fox Mine property, and the Stock property. Robin Wolf, one of our senior geologists, will talk about the excitement at the Stock property, and Ken Tylee, our exploration manager in Timmins, will focus on the significant and growing Grey Fox resource and where growth potential exists at the Black Fox Mine. Yes, you heard me say it. We believe there is also good potential at the Black Fox Mine to extend its life and lower its cost of production per ounce. But first, we have to get the miners out of the way and allow the geos in to drill and define more resources and reserves. I will now turn the webinar over to Sylvain.
Thank you, Rob, and good afternoon, everyone. Let me start with the regional location of our Timmins project. Both Stock and Black Fox properties are located along the Destor-Porcupine Deformation zone east of the prolific Timmins mining camp. So great regional setting. Moving now to the district scale area. You can see here the scale bar of 10 kilometers on the slide. Both properties are located over what we consider prime segment of the Destor-Porcupine Deformation zone. Why prime segments? First, we have proven mineralized gold system at each site. We have the historical mine at Stock and the active mine and multiple deposits at Black Fox. Second, there are structural complexities such as a major flexure or change of orientation of the distal porcupine at Black Fox, where the fault zone goes from mostly east-west to northwest-southeast. There are also splay structure or secondary faults that intersect the distal porcupine at each property. They are shown in red dashed line on the slides. And we believe these fault intersections play an important role in the control of the gold mineralization. Finally, these projects remain underexplored, near our mine and near our mill, and near all infrastructure, actually. Now, a few words about what we have done differently from previous operators. First, we have reactivated serious exploration and put in place a quality team and exploration process in a significant budget. At Stock, the project was dormant for many years, and we have quickly reactivated, went to the Stock East target, and extended our drilling along the mine trend at depth and to the west of the mine over a wet area that has seen limited historical drilling, but some good alteration and interesting gold intersections. This work led us to a first resource at Stock East in 2018 and the discovery of the Stock West in 2019. At the Black Fox property, we made the right decision early on to go back into the Grey Fox area that was relatively extensively drilled and hosting significant resources. We have reinforced the geological model and realized that part of historical drilling has been performed parallel to some of the structures controlling the gold mineralization. So, we have changed the orientation of the drilling to better assess these mineralized structures. This led to the discovery of the 147 Northeast Zone in 2018 and new potential discovery, including Whiskey Jack earlier this year. Finally, at the Black Fox mine, the operation was suffering from a lack of development to support underground exploration drilling. We have worked on it and now have drill platform to explore to the west and depth extension of the mine that remain open and highly prospective. Regarding new drill results, we have generating drill intersection with good grade and good width, some contributing to extend known resources and others defining new zones of mineralization. We are showing in this table right now some of our best drill results of plus 100 gold meter, which means gram per ton gold grade time drill meters. As you can see, most of the intersections have been generating this year in 2019. The next slide now is showing that in only 2 years, we have developed a strong exploration pipeline, which goes from target delineation to drill intersection suggesting potential new discoveries to quick resources estimation. Our rate of drill success is increasing. We have strong positive momentum and remain focused on a few high-quality targets showing excellent upside potential, Stock West and Grey Fox being the top priorities. Finally, this slide provides some perspective on our drill results and upside potential. Archean gold deposit extend to very important depth, as shown here for the Red Lake, Timmins, and Kirkland Lake mining camps. Our drill intersection and mineralized zone, which are highlighted to the right of the slide, have a lot of room to grow, both along strike and at depth. I would now like to invite Robin Wolf to talk about the Stock property exploration progress and excellent 2019 results.
Thank you, Sylvain. The Stock property has been largely underexplored over the past 20 years. Mineralization was first defined on the property in 1961, and Stock Mine was put into production from 1983, and then was mined intermittently to 2004. During this time, a number of small exploration programs were carried out, but a number of factors such as lack of funding, poor access conditions, and the low price of gold resulted in limited success. Due to the lack of historical work, McEwen sees this property as having very high exploration potential, and this can be evidenced by our successful exploration results to date. Over the past 2 years, our exploration efforts at Stock have focused on 3 main target areas: Stock East, the historical Stock Mine, and our new Stock West target. These zones are all located in a highly prospective structural corridor that is conducive to gold mineralization, and they all lay between the Porcupine-Dexter Fault and the Nighthawk Break. The yellow bubbles that you see highlight some of our significant drill intersections from our 2019 program across all 3 targets. Keep in mind, too, that all of our zones are located very close to existing underground workings, and that our operating mill is also located on the Stock property. This year, our drilling at Stock East focused on the definition of high-grade chutes within the existing lower-grade resource. And we expect that a resource update on the deposit should be ready in the first quarter of 2020. At Stock Mine, we focused on our Stock Deep target. So we drilled deep and down plunge of the historical mineralization, and we showed that the mineralization is open at depth and along strike. And at Stock West, our newest zone of mineralization, our drilling has intersected significant gold grades over significant widths and continues to grow with each drill hole. The mineralization at Stock West is open to the east and to the west. So here is a composite longitudinal section showing gold grade by thickness contours, and it shows the distribution of gold across our 3-kilometer mine trend, with the warmer colors and dark purple highlighting a higher grade thickness. I'd like to point out, too, that we have 2 plunges on the property that define our higher grade gold mineralization. So looking at the black arrows, these represent our main plunge, which plunges towards the southwest, and the red arrows show our secondary shallower plunge towards the east. I'd also like you to notice that our deep drilling at Stock Mine has defined significant mineralization between 800 to 1,000 meters vertical from surface, and this has been the deepest drilling to date on the property. So taking a closer look, we have 2 main styles of mineralization on the Stock property. At Stock East, the majority of the mineralization is hosted in a bleached silicified, so rather buff to light gray colored ultramafic with pyrite and quartz carbonate veining. And this unit also defines the hanging wall mineralization at our Stock West target. The Stock Deep, Stock West, and historical mine mineralization is hosted in a bright green carbonate-altered ultramafic volcanic, and we often see pyrite and significant quartz and quartz carbonate veining within the unit. At Stock West, the unit is quite coarse-grained. And we also have at Stock East some narrow intervals of this unit, and usually near the base of the Stock East zone. And as you can see from our photos, we have visible gold in both our mafic volcanic and green carbonate ultramafic hosts. So both the bleached mafic volcanic host and the green carbonate host are similar to styles of mineralization that were found at the historical Kerr-Addison mine. Located in Larder Lake, Ontario, this was one of the largest mines in Canada with more than 10 million ounces produced. So moving on to our Stock West 2019 results. Our discovery hole at Stock West was drilled not so long ago in July of this year. And as mentioned, the gold is hosted in a green carbonate, altered ultramafic, and it's found in both the unit itself and the quartz veins and veinlets. Following our discovery hole, we rapidly increased our drilling with 1 rig to 5 rigs in a very short period of time. So hole S1998 was our discovery hole, and that's the photo on the left. You can see that we intersected 5.6 grams over 30 meters. And we quickly followed up on this hole with S19101, which is the photo on the right, and we returned 6.7 grams over 39 meters. So not only did the holes return good grades with good widths, but the distribution of the gold was also consistent throughout. And this can be illustrated in this slide, that we can see that the gold is very well distributed throughout the interval. Our intersections are not just carried by a few high-grade hits. You can see from these assay results that how consistent the mineralization is. So we're just showing you examples from hole S19-101, hole S19-105, and hole S19-106. So you can see 6.37 over 42 meters, 5.6 over 29 meters, and 7.7 over 25 meters. So taking a look at a cross-section through our Stock West target, and we're looking towards the northeast, showing our geology. So we collar our holes into unaltered mafic volcanics, and then through a felsic porphyry unit. And then in the hanging wall, we hit our bleached mafic volcanics. And this is the primary host of gold mineralization at our Stock East deposit. You can see the photo on the left-hand side showing this. And additionally, we've actually encountered some significant grade in a few of our stock holes in this bleached mafic volcanic, including 4.4 grams over 14.5 meters in hole S19-112A. So this could potentially become an upper zone to the main mineralized zone that we have at Stock West. And after our bleached mafic volcanics, we move into our green carbonate unit, which is the primary host rock. And then we pass our zone and into the footwall, which are either Timiskaming sediments or talc chlorite altered ultramafic. And the presence of Timiskaming sediments is very positive, as they're an important characteristic of well-developed Archean orogenic gold systems. And here is a longitudinal section of our Stock West green carbonate zone. So I'd like you to take note of our impressive composites on the left-hand side of the slide. Just taking a look at this section, the crosses refer to holes where we have assays pending. The circles represent drill hole intersections, and the warmer colors and dark purple are defining higher gram meter values. The dashed red outline shows our gold zone as defined to date, and it currently covers a strike length of approximately 300 meters with a vertical extent of up to 150 meters. And our mineralization is open to the east and to the west. So we believe that there could be a possible connection of mineralization between Stock West and the Stock Deep mineralization. So here I am showing you a long section. And once again, the warmer colors are referring to a higher gram thickness. The red arrows represent the shallower secondary plunges of gold mineralization that we see across the Stock property. And as you can see, these are stacked. So we think that there's good potential to connect the mineralization from Stock West to Stock Deep, and that we could have more stacks. And additionally, there's never been any drilling ever in the red circled area between Stock West and Stock Deep. So you can see it's totally open. And this is definitely one of our highest priority targets. Moving on to our Stock East deposit, here we have some core photos from two of our high-grade drilling intersections from this year's infill program. Our goal was to define higher-grade mineralized chutes within the lower-grade mineralized resource envelope. The photos on the right are representative of our bleached mafic style mineralization, and the photos on the left are representative of the green carbonate style. As you can see, there's definitely a lot of visible gold within the core. The photo on the right is quite impressive, as there was over 40 spots of visible gold within a 1.5 meter interval. And here we have a long section of Stock East showing our grade thickness contours. So you can see the higher grade chutes as they're represented by the warm pink to purple colors. And you can see that they sit within a lower grade envelope represented by the green and yellow colors. The few bubbles we have show representative drill intersections from both McEwen and pre-McEwen drilling programs. So what really brought us to Stock East as a target were the good results from the pre-McEwen drilling. Hole SEZ 1937 is quite representative of our lower grade mineralization that's often over wide intersections, while hole SEZ 1928 highlights the high grade zones within. So mineralization at Stock East is open to the east and possibly at depth. As you can see, on the left-hand side of the slide, there is a porphyry fill, and we will need to test to see if mineralization extends beyond that. So this is one of our primary targets on the east zone. And additionally, we do expect to have a resource update on Stock East in the first quarter of 2020. So to summarize our Stock property, here again we're looking at our longitudinal section showing our 3-kilometer mine trend and our 3 main targets: Stock East, Stock Mine, which comprises Stock Deep, and Stock West. And as you can see, we have significant gold intersections all across the 3-kilometer trend. Additionally, we're showing in the bubble some further 2019 drilling highlights, and the grades are quite impressive. So again, one of our main focuses will be attempting to connect the mineralization at Stock Deep with Stock West, and as I mentioned before, this is an area that has had no drilling to date, so it's very prospective. And with that, I will hand it over to Ken.
Thank you, Robin. I'm going to spend the next 20 minutes. I'm going to shift the focus a little bit, about 30 kilometers to the east. As Sylvain mentioned earlier, our Black Fox claim group is ideally situated on the regional Destor-Porcupine Fault Zone. You can see that in the heavy blast dashed line there. But what I'd like to highlight is see the red splays heading south of that roll in the Destor-Porcupine. These are key dilatant structures that we believe allow the opportunity for late-stage mineralizing fluids to enter into the rocks that underline our claims. Tightening up the focus a bit, the majority of our efforts in 2019 here at this site were focused on the Grey Fox area. You see that red circle? That represents just 2 kilometers in diameter where we focused our work. Up to 7 rigs were active since April 1st in that area. We're quite proud. We've come up with a number of highlights that I'd like to talk about now. The biggest thing is our geologists did a lot of really good detective work earlier in the year, and they confidently identified these northeast trending individual vein sets. Their predecessor companies that have been in the area sort of looked at that area as a gross bulk mining situation. We have now focused on individual veins, and we've been able to drill them with quite a bit of success. We were able to do some remodeling in mid-year, and we were able to increase our indicated resources up to 567,000 ounces at an average grade of 7.1 grams per ton. The drills continued turning through the second half of the year. We had a discovery in the Whiskey Jack area that I'm going to talk to in a few minutes, and we found a second distinct style of mineralization in the Gibson intrusion. So I guess without getting into too much detail, my Geology 101 takeaway for the day is you need to have structural preparation. I'm sure you've heard me say this before. These veins and structures just can't blast through solid rock. So the Destor-Porcupine Fault Zone that you see in the heavy black line cutting across that 7-kilometer property is responsible for numerous splays and structures. You see all the various shades of gray? Those are all slabs and lozenges of the original rock that have been thrust up into that incredibly dilatant corridor. And this allows those late-stage minerals to enter into that area and bring the gold along with it. We have 4 distinct styles of mineralization. The one I want to talk to today is on the southeast corner. It's down about 3 kilometers from our existing operations, called Grey Fox. You see that pale green area. These are intrusion-related veins and structures. That pale whitish gray slab is what we'd call a syenite. It looks very similar to a granite, and that is the engine or the source of these late-stage fluids in the Grey Fox area. Now tightening up the scales a little bit. This is quite a detailed image, but it does show you how we had to orient our holes according to the style or the structure or the orientation that we were chasing through the second half of the year. You see in the 147 Northeast cluster in the center of that image and to the south in Grey Fox South, we were chasing veins there that were oriented or actually reoriented towards the northeast. Then we switched the rigs over to Gibson, where we were looking for a deeper replacement style of brecciation going on. And then in about September, October, we came across a new discovery we call Whiskey Jack, and it's about 500 meters to the north of our contact zone resources that you see there in pale red. This is what the 147 Northeast looks like. This is why it is really so different from the typical Archean lode gold style of deposition that you see in the Timmins or Kirkland Lake area. Okay, incredibly broken up rock as those hot fluids were escaping away from the intrusion, and they're carrying loads and loads of silica and sericite and late-stage gold. This is a long-lived, multi-phase event, and as those fluids were passing through the volcanic rocks that were sort of underlying the area, they passed through a very porous rock. It's a rock we call variolitic textured mafic volcanic. You see those circles and discs on that right photograph? This represents a very porous structure. This is ideal for gold deposition. Here's an aerial view we had taken with a drone back in the late summer. This is looking west towards Matheson and further out towards Timmins. You can see, if you zoom in a little bit, you can see some blue diamond drill rigs there, the amount of old clear cuts that were going through the area. You see the existing resources in 147 zone and the other one in red there in contact zone. You see that bright yellow arrow. Now what I'm going to do with the next slide is try and show you a vertical section along that red line representing about 300 meters of one individual vein set. And we're going to be looking towards that red area. This is what it looks like. This is that slice along that red line, sort of following that yellow arrow to the southeast. Look at all those brightly colored assays. That's sort of representing the hotter the color or the warmer the color, the better the assay grade. And this is along the track of those holes as they were going, following that yellow arrow towards the southeast. As they crossed that porous variolitic mafic, which we represent here in pale green, this gave an opportunity for those vein swarms to blow out, to expand. So we saw much more than one individual vein. We saw continuous segments of it. And that's reflected by those broad intercepts, 4.5 grams over 38 meters in hole 1151. 11 grams over 11 meters in hole 1204. It really gave an opportunity to build volume. Now, our mid-year resources that were calculated really only went down towards the 150 meter level, not a heck of a lot of strike length, in the order of about 150 meters as well. Since that time, we have had 2 to 3 drills in there drilling this trend at 30 meter centers. We anticipate we're going to be coming up with a new resource calculation early in the year, but as you can see, our holes now perforated or penetrated down towards the 350 meter level. The second site I'd like to talk about, the second update I'd like to give you, is an area we call Whiskey Jack. It sits about 300 meters north of that 147 area, and as you can see, numerous holes were drilled in there since 1993, all the way up towards 2014. The areas in gray sort of indicate a discontinuous or disconnected series of assays that were never really able to be linked up. So our geologists, now knowing what they'd seen from 147 about the northeast trend, had designed a hole, in this case hole number 1248, to cut across which they believed was the new or reconnected northeast trend. Well, they hit a lot of mineralization over a broad length. You can see the assays there in 1248, 9.9 grams over 39 meters. And within that, there was a series of probably 10 individual contributions, as I show in the inset there. You can see those high-grade intercepts within that broad run, 46.8 grams over 3 meters. 28.5 grams over a meter, all contributing towards that 39-meter run. We went back to the core, we looked at the orientations of the vein. We now believe that we were running along the plane of a vein that wasn't actually heading to the northeast. We believe this particular Whiskey Jack vein was heading to the southeast. So this is essentially a longitudinal section. So we turned our drill around by 90 degrees, started drilling through that intercept off to the northeast, and we started hitting the veins in a predictable fashion. This is what it looks like. Incredible amounts of veining and silica and sericite that have been placed onto the volcanic rocks. There's a broader intercept of 9 grams over 44 meters. This is fantastic looking material. 7 out of the 10 holes that we have drilled to date on this new zone have shown visible gold. We have many, many assays that are at the lab right now. The third area I'd like to talk about is our Gibson intrusion. As you can see, it sits probably about 500 meters to the west of the contact zone on the other side of Tamarack Road. We went in April with 1 to 2 rigs and started drilling across this intrusion. And as I said earlier, this cyanitic intrusion, started drilling at a regular, regimented 50-meter slices or sections through the intrusion. We found that in the upper 300 meters of the drill target, we are getting crustiform brecciated veins, just like the stuff we're seeing at Whiskey Jack, just like the veins we're seeing at 147, but they're in the actual cyanite intrusion, the source that we thought is the source of the veining. Below 300 meters, we're getting more of a replacement style, pyrite and gold in fine fractures and breccia systems at depth. Here's an example of some of the values we've been getting. You can see considerably high-grade values, such as 18.4 over 2.4 meters. The fourth area I'd like to talk about is down in the southeast corner of the property close to our boundary. This is called Grey Fox South. It's a previously known zone that has been looked at from a bulk mining potential. Knowing what we've seen at 147 Northeast, at Whiskey Jack, we went in there with a rig back in October and drilled a series of holes to test the concept, again, to be a second vein set or individual vein swarm heading off to the northeast. Look what we hit. Incredible amounts of silica alteration. That's that same variolitic, that preferred variolitic host, and it's been almost ringed. There's concentric rings of alteration and pyrite. This is indicative of where you'd want to be looking for gold mineralization in this porous host unit. That red circle indicates fine visible gold within a brecciated system. We came out with a press release not too long ago. This sample ran 10.9 grams over 18 meters. We still intend to get back in there in 2020 and continue drilling. So this sort of wraps up our Grey Fox area. We have big plans for 2020. We certainly intend to get in. We've outlined now or hit portions of veins. We believe there's an opportunity for at least a dozen veins heading to the northeast between the Whiskey Jack target and down into our resources area at the 147 main. Each one of these veins has the potential to add perhaps 50 to 100,000 ounces to the existing resources. We have to drill it to find out for sure. Over to the west, we have the Gibson sort of bulk scenario that we have to do more drilling. We have to drill throughout the extent of that felsic ore body. And then we have to do some follow-up infill drilling at Whiskey Jack and at the South Zone. We have the rigs. They're sitting in the bush. They're ready to go. And this will be our number one focus again in 2020. So I'd like to spend a few minutes now, if I could really tighten up the focus, and talk about the underground exploration that's been going out throughout the last few years at the Black Fox Mine underground. The majority of the drilling that was done over 2018-2019 has been focused in those blue outlined areas, essentially defining, delineating, getting a much better handle on where our potential ore blocks are adjacent to the existing mining areas, okay? We were focusing on what we had to do. We had to come up with new resources fast. So we focused the majority of our drilling in tight to existing known areas. But look at those values. It's kind of hard to focus in, so I'm going to sit to the next slide. We're getting some great-looking values along the western flank. This is a vertical section through the ore body looking to the north. You see that magenta-colored intercept down at the 1,050 level? That ran 55 grams. Off on the western flank, some of those hits in there ran 1175 grams over 1 meter. There's a 245 intercept. You can see that yellow circle on the west side. There has not been adequate exploration along the western flank of the deposit. You can see the plunge there heading steeply towards the southwest. We need to get in and explore there. Now, you may recall me saying that exact same thing back in mid-year when we had our AGM. Since that time, we've been able to get in on 4 levels and do some exploration drifting off to the west into this western flank area where you can see those new intercepts that I've now highlighted in red. Okay, we were successful and we drifted westwards on the 300 west. We're almost complete an extension on the 335 meter level. We sort of went internal on 560 towards that red central area, which we thought had good opportunity. And down on the 810 drill drift, we expanded that drill drift by 150 meters. It was just finished off last week. And I want to give you an example. This is what I would call a real-time example that sort of accentuates the need to get into those western areas, those western exploration areas. This is the level plan from underground. Those white lines are sort of showing the outlines of the stoping and the drifting that goes on at the 300 meter level below surface. Well, earlier in the year, in late 2018, we had to drill in towards the western end of the drifting on 300, and we wanted to see, you see that line in red, we wanted to see what was happening beyond the final face that the miners stopped mining at a few years before. We had to arc some holes in, and that's what we call a poor attack angle. It's quite an acute or an oblique angle, but we did have that phenomenal hit, 1175 grams. So we put in a proposition and we extended that drift by about 60 meters off to the west. We quickly excavated a drill bay. We moved the drill in there, and Riley started drilling a fan of holes across the extension of that old stoping area that you see in red. Well, on the way to the target, we hit a new zone, and you can see it was running almost 21 grams in 2 instances from 2 of the holes en route to the main target. So the miners wasted no time in sort of curling that drill drift around and heading off directly to the target, heading northward. Well, as they were approaching the number 1 site, or the number 1 target, look at the muck values. These are grab samples that the miners and the geologists take from the broken rock as they're excavating northward towards the main target. Look, it was running between 8 grams, 7 grams. There was almost a 14-gram muck sample in there. This is a secondary zone. Now, if you look over on the far right-hand side of the image, we don't know if those 2 zones connect between the old stoping area on the right and this new intercept represented by the blue star. This is a perfect example of why we need to get in and do further exploration on the western flank. I'm just going to love to get a drill into that bay on the left side and start drilling holes to see what happens as that zone progresses westward. This is again into a vertical longitudinal, a slice through the ore body. This is where we want to be next year. You see those areas in blue, those are our new drill drifts. We've already got 2 drills down on the 810 in that blue area, drilling in there, and 1 up on the 300 west. We got to extend those further to the west on 660 and again on 810. And we're going to have 2 to 3 drills throughout 2020 in those areas, drilling off those projections, what we call those plunge trends, to detect the down plunge continuation of the ore body that you see there in pink. So we're quite excited. This is all brand new for us. We by no means think that the deposit comes to a very sudden or rapid end, and 300, the success we had in 300 is a great indication of that. So that's where I sit right now. Maybe you want to hand it over to Rob or Sylvain.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Sylvain. So there you have it. High-grade values across multiple zones. These results strongly suggesting the future of Black Fox is one of a significant increase in annual production over the next 3 to 5 years. Our exploration is outlining resources that are located in close proximity to our existing infrastructure, next to well-established power and transportation corridors, near equipment suppliers, skilled labor, and located in a relatively stable political environment. I hope you found this webinar informative, and at this point I'd like to thank you for joining us and open the session for questions.
As a reminder, in order to queue for a question, please press star followed by the number 1 on your telephone keypad. Our first question today comes from Jake Sekowski from Roth Capital Partners. Please go ahead.
Hey, Rob and team. Thanks for taking my questions.
Hello, Jake.
You guys obviously have quite a few targets across the land package. I'm just wondering, can you just give us some color on the 2020 budget and exploration plan? I guess, should we see a similar sized budget to what we saw in 2019? And any type of breakdown you'd be able to provide of how those drilling dollars will be allocated would be helpful. Thanks.
We're looking for a similar budget, and the focus was largely Stock, Grey Fox, and to a lesser degree underground at Black Fox.
Yeah, just to add to that, Jake, I mentioned in 2018 we drilled many targets, and very quickly we've been focusing our exploration. So this year, most of our drilling was along this 3 kilometer at Stock, and the Stock West came as a new a new discovery in July. So this is the current focus of our exploration. The other place at Black Fox property is over the southeast, all over the Grey Fox area. So to summarize 2 key areas, our target areas, the Stock West, connecting the Stock West with the Stock Deep mine. This is a priority area. And the other place is at Black Fox over the Grey Fox complex, where we have extensive and powerful gold system there.
Okay, that's helpful. And then just building a bit off of that, should we expect to see any results on any type of scoping studies or visibility on development scenarios next year once the resource updates are out, or is that a bit too soon, do you think?
We've been doing preliminary design work, and definitely it'll be after the resource updates come. And we're just looking at all of the parameters. It's several years out, but
if we look at the order of priority, what we are advancing with is Froome. Froome is the more advanced development projects we have. We've been working on a portal from the open pit at Black Fox. The second one that we are progressing with is the Grey Fox. We would like to keep growing the resource there. There is a significant resource. There's different scenarios that we are considering, open pit underground. Portion of the deposit is subcropping or exposed at surface. We had mechanical stripping there. So that provides short-term opportunities and again, a real good upside potential to keep growing this resource there. And Stock has been moving and advancing faster than expected. As we mentioned, Stock have seen no exploration or significant exploration for many, many years, and we've been very quick defining first resource in 2018 at Stock East. We'll have an update the Stock East infill program that has intersected higher grade mineralization early next year, and Stock West is quickly growing. So the Stock story is moving faster than expected, I would say.
Got it. That's all on my end. Looking forward to the results next year. Thanks again.
Thank you, Jake.
Thank you.
I should just add, before taking the next question, I forgot to mention that in the appendix in this webinar, on slide 44, we've looked at the Black Fox and Stock properties and the zones we found and done some comparisons to other deposits that have similar appearances. And then from 45, slide 45 on, 46 actually, we have included all the assay values from Stock West, Stock East, Grey Fox 147, South, Contact, Whiskey Jack, Gibson, Froome, Pike River, Tamarack, Black Fox Mine, and not released. Okay, so just for future reference.
And as a reminder, if you'd like to ask a question, please press star followed by the number 1 on your telephone keypad. Our next question comes from David Stein, private investor. Please go ahead.
Hi, David.
Thanks. Hi. I see that basically the 3 zones break down into obviously Stock, Grey Fox, and Black Fox. To me, given the proximity to the mill, Stock, and obviously the excellent results you've been getting, Stock could be a real game changer for this complex. I know that you can't say any specific numbers about how the development is going to go there at this point in time, but I'm wondering more qualitatively, can you comment on what would be involved to restart production there over the next few years?
Sure. The Stock mine ceased operations about 15 years ago. It wasn't a very deep mine. It went down to 330 meters. It would need to be dewatered, and it was dewatered once in between now and when it shut down. And it took about 3-4 months to dewater. Our environmental department had checked with the Ministry of Mines and said that the mine is considered to be temporarily suspended, and with a mine plan submitted, could be conceivably reopened and given approval to go forward with it in a period of 4 months. The underground development extends to the west and is within 250, 300 meters from the Stock West area. So your question is driving at how quickly could you put it in. There's a slide up right now. You can see it's very close to where we are. And that's why Sylvain said, depending on if we have continued success at Stock West, you could see that coming up on our list of priorities very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Stock East, we drill in 2018. We were back there this year in filling the mineralization that come to surface or very close to surface down to a depth of 450 meters. Again, it's close to existing development, and as you mentioned, very close to our mill, active mill. So we see Stock East as number 1 potentially, and advancing with the Stock West as second opportunities. The drilling is recent there at Stock West, but the progress is considerable. Every hole is adding significant mineralization, and this new zone, new style of mineralization, new struck, we mentioned was never drilled before, so it was drilled for the very first time this year, this summer, and it's open along strike, so it's highly promising. Southwest, just to give some parameter, Robin mentioned it. Currently, it's a strike length of 300 meter open along strike and vertical continuity of 100 to 150 meter. You saw the grade. The grade is 5 to 7 gram per ton, and thickness range from 10 to 30 meters. So quite significant geometry there.
That covered off, David?
Oh, thanks. Sorry, I wasn't sure if my line was open. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your question.
Our next question comes from John Mulcler from Private Investor. Please go ahead.
The name of the game really with all companies in operations is cash flow. And with the stock price down so low right now, and with the funds that you raised, how long will it be before you're going to have to raise more funds to get these operations into production so it turns into a money-making operation instead of a money-sucking up operation?
Well, we feel the money being spent is being well spent in the exploration. The development of any of these properties will be several years out. And the funds that we raise should take us through next year. And
well, from your other operations, how much cash can you generate so that you won't have to do another stock offering? Because with the price down so low, it dilutes the stock ownership of all of us investors. And so how much cash can you generate internally to fund this exploration and get these projects up and running?
Well, one, we don't expect the stock to stay down where it is.
I should sure hope so. Yeah.
And once we have to put some plans in place, John, first before we look at what our capital needs might be.
So you don't have any projections?
I don't have a definitive answer for you because I don't know what it will cost to put these properties into production. As I said right at the beginning, we're very preliminary. We went into this property believing it had exploration potential. We've drilled it. We've identified a number of targets. We've come up with some priority targets that we're going to push ahead as quickly as we can. And from there, then we put on some design plans and get estimates of what the capital requirements will be. We do benefit from proximity to our existing infrastructure in a well-established district, but at this point we don't have a sense of what that's going to cost. But given where it is and what's in place already, it'll be less than if it was brand new standalone.
Yeah, that's a big plus. I understand that, yep, that's for sure.
We'll
thank you.
As soon as we know that, we'll get it out to you. And hopefully our stock price is much higher than where it is.
I should hope so, too.
Yeah.
There are no further questions in queue at this time. Mr. Rob McEwen, I turn the call back over to you.
Thank you, operator. Thank you, everyone, for joining the call, and very best wishes for a happy holiday season. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's webinar. Thank you for participating. You may now disconnect.